Because I think as a creator, like the number one asset you have is trust. So like every creator probably says no to like hundreds of thousands of dollars of deals, and then they say yes to the ones that actually make sense.
It was the Moonshot Factory trying to make the next Instagram.
Tech in the real world, I think, is the bread and butter, because I think everyone makes reviews. As tech becomes more iterative, the most exciting thing is seeing it out and about and how it actually impacts your life.
Niche is important, but the other actually is maybe spending some more time in the edit and making the front end of the episode really compelling by finding those sort of juicy bits and putting them up front.
There's a Taylor Swift quote that I like, which is, working hard and being kind is a great legacy to leave behind. Hopefully, it will be like always showing up and trying to be a really good person and making people feel better, like at the end of the interaction than they felt at the beginning.
The thread I'm hearing for a lot of people is wanted to check my work and I wanted to offer suggestions, but I want to stay the owner of the final decisions and I want to stay the owner of the creative direction. Hello, friends. Welcome to Building Value. I'm Jason Nellis. She goes by the handle Nothing But Tech, but I'd say that she's actually anything but unprofessional. Let's talk about my guest for today, Jacklyn Dallas. Definitely the youngest person I've interviewed, but certainly one of the most accomplished as well. Jacklyn is a technology YouTube content creator who does day-in-the-life technology reviews as well as interviews C-suite leaders all across the tech space. She started her YouTube channel at the age of 13 and has since amassed more than 250,000 combined subscribers across all her social media. One of the things I loved about today's interview is it really felt more like a conversation with an old friend, and I think once you've watched and listened, you'll agree. We talked about her approach to her creative work, why she gave up a fairly healthy podcast audience, and why she's shifted more of her content towards interviews and a little bit away from reviews. This is Jacklyn Dallas. And here we are today with Jacklyn. Jacklyn, how are you today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. So excited.
Thank you for being here. There's so much I want to tackle today, but one of the first things I want to jump into, you are by far the youngest person I've interviewed on the podcast. And when we started working together 7 years ago now, you were, I think, still in high school. You might have just started high school, given where your content had been. I think by far, you're probably one of the youngest people I've ever had the chance to work with. How is it that you decided at such a young age, not only to start on YouTube, which I think is probably a fairly common thing for young folks, God, I sound old asking that question. But specifically, oh no, I'm ancient. But specifically, your professionalism from the very beginning seemed really well defined. What inspired you, and what helped you sort of build those sea legs really quickly?
Yeah, thank you, first of all. I think about that a lot because I feel like by the time I was like 14 or 15, I was going to networking parties a lot. And now I'm 22, and a lot of my closest friends are like in their late 20s or early 30s. I'm also friends with people that are like 22, but I've always been friends with people much older as well. I think that's been really good for me because, I think that's good for everyone, like being friends with people of different ages, like within reason. I think it's really good because you can learn like different worlds. I feel like I had
you don't want to be creepy about it. I agree. Yeah.
Like I don't want someone being friends with like an 8-year-old or something. But yeah, I think super helpful. And also in general, like even when I was a kid, I would always kind of like hang out with my friends' parents too. And like one of my best friends in middle school, her mom used to edit montages in Final Cut. And that was actually like my first exposure to Final Cut. And like everyone would be like playing outside and I'd be like sitting next to her, like learning how to edit certain things in Final Cut. And she like taught me a lot. So yeah, I've always like liked older people as well as younger people. And I think it's kind of always like pulled me forward in life stage. Like when I was like 13 or 14 or 15, I was already kind of working full time with school. And I think that like that builds a lot of like discipline and like resiliency. And I think there are pros and cons obviously, but I would do it every single time. And now like a lot of my friends are older in their career and life. And I think it just like makes you, I guess, realize like the things that are actually important you should care about versus like, I think this is like an unpopular take, but I think sometimes people like throw away their 20s because a lot of like society tells you like to do things that are like, you're only young once. And like, yes, I think that's true. But I also think like these are the fundamental years to do things that kind of set you up for the like long-term goals that you have.
I love that. I absolutely agree. And I think there's probably a balance. I think you don't want to throw away your 20s so much as like, don't worry about the consequences quite as much as you have to when you're, an octogenarian like me. I'm not actually in my 80s. But still, most younger creators, particularly these days, are finding themselves attracted to more sort of meme-centric stuff. It's a lot of dance. It's a lot of music. Women in beauty and makeup, is a much larger category. Huge. Women in tech, much smaller. Do you find that that's a ceiling you have to break through more than once? Is that something that you're just constantly, pushing against, or do you find a lot of support in the community?
One of the coolest things ever, this is like, I promise we'll circle back. Women's basketball this year was much more popular than men's basketball this year. I think both are amazing.
Hell
I watched
yeah.
both.
Yeah.
But it was so exciting to see because I feel like I played basketball growing up. Obviously not at that level, but I played like competitively and like in AAU programs and stuff. And I feel like the common sentiment was like, you could become like the best basketball player in the world, but like it's ultimately not going to really matter that much, like because you're not playing like on a men's basketball team. Like
Right.
the career trajectory is just like not the same. You can like still play for fun or whatever, but like people are just not as interested in women's sports. It's kind of what I heard all the time growing up. So I think it's so exciting that right now we're in a moment where women's basketball is kind of taken over. And I think it's because of TikTok, honestly. I think there are myriad factors, like some of the players are incredible, but there have been incredible players in the past. And so I think the TikTok edits have really helped because Jules Turback actually made like a whole video essay on this if anyone wants to check it out. But basically it's all about how like the TikTok editors are kind of like tastemakers now and no one knows their name, but like they're editing these compilations that then get like 10 or 20 or 30 million views. And so they expose a whole new audience to this type of content. So that's really exciting to me. I think like, yes, the glass ceiling thing. I've also been super like blessed and privileged that every single person I've met in my career has been amazing and supportive, that I haven't really felt it necessarily. I think about it a lot too because YouTube is like the most democratized media that we've ever had. And so the barrier to entry is like you hit upload and everyone starts at zero. And so then it's fascinating there still are not that many female creators. And so I think it starts like earlier of like being exposed to the fact that it's a career option or like I think again, like growing up, like it was not considered like the coolest thing to be into tech if you were a girl. I think if we like change that narrative, then we'll probably get more people into tech. But ultimately, I think it's like the best time to ever want to be a creator. Like the opportunities are more than they've ever been.
That's amazing. I think too, one of the things you touched on that I want to circle back to is, it wasn't cool to be a woman in tech. Tech is such a different space now, right? I mean, everything is tech for better or for worse, right? So I wonder if perhaps as things have developed and as that category has expanded into so many different directions, what used to be sort of thought of as like nerdy dudes who look like me sitting in a basement, sort of tinkering away at a motherboard, has really now
I don't
grown
know, dude.
into,
You give tech a good image.
Well, I'm writing that down and putting it on a shirt. Thank you very much. But no, I mean, like, nowadays tech is so ubiquitous, right? When we talk about tech, we're not just talking about, computers and, gaming and any of that kind of more narrow approach. I mean, tech is in such a ubiquitous, infiltrating everything. So I think it's interesting to me that you've actually sort of ridden such a phenomenal creative wave of what used to be thought of as a very male-centric space. Maybe now it's much more ubiquitous, and I've used ubiquitous like 19 times. Did I use that in
the perfect
Scrabble
word?
today?
I feel like.
Okay.
No, it definitely defines it because I think you're right. Like, and also the coolest jobs now that people want are often in tech. Like people really want to work at Google or Apple or Meta. And like tech is in health now, so it's like if you're really into fitness, suddenly you're wearing an Oura ring or a Whoop, and you're like cold plunging and you're tracking. Like in every area of life, tech has been the thing. Which
but if I have to hear one more person talk to me about cold plunging as like the new hotness,
have you ever done it?
No. Why would I ever subject myself to negative
it's kind of
whatever
the best thing ever. I'm a fan.
If my shower is less than 190 degrees, if it's not almost boiling, it may as well be ice cubes. I'm sorry, I can't do it. It's not interesting.
Okay, so dude, I was you like 2 years ago, and I was like, these people are dumb. Like, why are they cold plunging? Like, this is so extra of them. And then I started doing it, and I've kind of come around. I think it's amazing.
But for what benefit? I mean, I get that like it wakes you up, but like, is it really helping with the things it says? Is it really making fat loss easier? And is it really helping like boost your energy throughout the day? Or are we all just like agreeing to the same pretend fantasy?
100% it could be that. I think it builds discipline. Like, I think that's actually so there's a part of your brain, Andrew Huberman has talked about this, he's like a health podcaster, where it's like,
yes, he's been in the news recently, unfortunately.
I know. Yeah. A lot of thoughts on that. But the part of your brain that like builds willpower, basically, if you enjoy doing, let's say you do something really hard, but you enjoy it, it doesn't grow as much as if you hate doing the thing and then you push through and do it. That actually like strengthens your willpower. And so like, I really like working out, so that would probably strengthen my willpower a little bit less because it's like less of an ask to get myself to do it. But like taking a freezing shower the second I wake up, not something I really want to do. So every day it's kind of a practice in like building the discipline.
Yeah, you're not going to convince me to take the cold showers, but I do hear you, and I appreciate that perhaps there is now something to think about there. Maybe
What
I'll.
habits do you think that like add discipline to your life? Like what's something that sucks that you do every single day?
That's a great question. I want to be snarky and say something about work, but that's not actually the case. No, you know what? I struggle with working out. I do. I've never been somebody who's been super attracted to working out, athletics. I was a nerdy bookie, theater kid back in the day. I could get away with that for many years. I was also just like naturally skinny. Not really the case anymore, unfortunately. I've gone from dad bod to full father figure at this point. So it is difficult, I think, to get myself sometimes motivated to go and work out. I do hear what you're saying, though, that as I continue to work out and as I see progress and as I feel my own infrastructure, let's call it, my own body sort of start to respond, there is something a little bit more pleasurable than things I'm good at, like talking to people, where I'm like, yeah, this is great, but I know I can do that well. I see that balance. I understand that.
Yeah, I think about like everyone is kind of predisposed to being better at certain things. Like I feel like most skills in life are pretty learnable, and you just have to like put in the reps. Like Alex Ramosi talks a lot about ignorance debt, which is like you can have anything you want, but you just have to pay down the ignorance debt of like things that you don't know to have it. And more in my life, I've noticed that because there's certain things that I truly like will be like, God, like they're just so good and natural, whatever, and then you realize that they've just put in 1,000x more reps in you. And probably similar for working out. Like one of my best friends has woken up at 5 a.m. every single morning for the last decade to go to the gym. So he's going to be like a lot more disciplined and on it at the gym than someone that's just started now.
I tried 5 a.m. for about 3 weeks. That passed. I want to shift gears a little bit here because one of the things that I noticed in doing my research and sort of getting back into the full depth of your content, you're still doing reviews. That's still, I think, an important part of what content you're creating, but I've seen a strategic shift where you're starting to interview folks more frequently. And these are not, you're not just talking to like the PM for Microsoft Teams who does chat. You're talking to the C-suite at Microsoft. You're talking to the C-suite at Google and YouTube and folks of that nature. Talk me through why you're making that shift and what kind of upside you've seen in moving you in that direction.
Yeah, thank you. 100% reviews are like the bread and butter. And honestly, even more than that, just like tech in the real world, I think is the bread and butter because I think everyone makes reviews. And so I think our unique differentiator is that as tech becomes more iterative, the most exciting thing is seeing it out and about and how it actually impacts your life. So the first change that I made is around a year and a half ago, switching to these like day in life reviews. But I also think going back to our earlier point about tech being in everyone's life, it's much more accessible if it's not like specs, top-down studio, but instead it's like, I'm at a coffee shop and like now I'm about to go for a run and here's how I zone track on my Apple Watch. Like that feels like my best friend who's not into tech can like it, but then like the tech enthusiast that I'm making it for can also like it. So that was shift number one. And I think I also still figuring it out. Like I still feel like we're very early stage of what are the topics that are going to be like appealing to a million people. And I think that it has to be beyond just a review because if you make like an incredible review, but like 30 other people also make their review, inherently it's not as unique as if you make a video that no one else has made. Like recently I tested out every single Apple Vision Pro app and no one else did that. So like that's a much more unique video than like an Apple Vision Pro review. So that's part one.
I was just going to ask though, doesn't spending that much time on the Vision Pro make you nauseous?
I feel like that's one dude, it was like one of the worst weeks. It was really fun, but also miserable. Like I think it took 50 hours. Like I was working till like 2 or 3 a.m. because I also did it in addition to like a normal work week. So it was like 50-hour. It was basically like 2 work weeks in 1 week. And I weirdly had the stomach virus also that week. So I was already nauseated.
Nothing about this is healthy. Nothing about this. I'm sure. Yeah. Sorry. And for those of you watching on video, my hair is doing its own thing today.
Oh yeah. Dude,
do you have to like take Dramamine? I mean, at a certain point.
Oh, like, I was dying.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, there was like a point where it was like 11 p.m. and like I had been in the Vision Pro for like hours and I was like, oh my God, like what did I commit to? But it's kind of like the moment in like a really hard workout where it's like, it sucks so much. But then if you just like stick through it, then at the end of the workout, you're like, bro, like I feel good now. So that was kind of like the moment. Like I remember like when I had like 5 apps left because it's 600 and like, I think it was 614. So when I had like 5 left, I was like, all right, I think we're actually able to do it. Like, let's go. And I think like, a lot of things in life are just building the resume for yourself of doing hard stuff that then when the next hard thing comes, you can do it. And And it was also fun, honestly. Like I learned so much about the Vision Pro, and I have so much respect for developers that make the applications. So that was one video. But to go on the interview note, I just love talking to people. And so when I was like growing up in school, my teachers used to always call me Jacklyn. I have two questions because I would always ask like so many different things. Certain classes I had like quotas of like you cannot ask more than this because I was just like I feel like the way that I learn is just asking a lot of stuff, and I was always curious. And so that was kind of like a natural thread line throughout my whole life. And then um, like 2 years ago, Google reached out and they were like, Sundar is going to do 3 creator interviews, and like we want to elevate YouTube as a platform. Like we're not going to do social media. We're just gonna have 3 creators come to the interview. Would you want to be one of them? And I'd never interviewed anyone before. I think I was like 19 or 20 maybe. And I think like I knew it was a really big deal and an honor, but I didn't realize like how high stakes it was. So I just went and I did it. It was so much fun and really, really energizing. And I think it like resonated well with the audience too. It's definitely the most popular video on the channel.
I was going to say it outpaces. It's almost 3x your most popular other video. I mean, that's a huge,
which I think is in huge part because of Sundar. Like he's amazing and people love him.
Yeah, but nobody would watch that video if you hadn't also provided something compelling and interesting for him to bounce against, right? So I think there's something there to be said of responding to positive signal and really taking what makes good content that you can uniquely make and doing more with it.
100%. Yeah, and like there were other interviews with him at the same time that I think got less of like the viewership. So I thought there was like something special there. And like the comment, like I really am very like pay attention a lot to what the NBT like community says, like people that watch the videos. Like I have notifications on for every single comment and I read them. And that video just had like a lot of comments around like the interview style. So that was one of the factors. And then the other one is that I just don't see it happening a lot in tech. And going back to like the point of like unique content, it's something that I would want to watch, but I don't see it happening. So that for this year is definitely the goal. We have some really fun CEO interviews lined up. The next one that's coming out is the CEO of Humane, which would be really cool. She was awesome. And then, yeah, it's been great. So I think like the thesis for the channel is like reviewing products in the real world and then interviewing the CEOs that make them. Still early stage, but I think that that's kind of the way to merge the two different content buckets.
You mentioned the NBT community. Tell me how you think about your community. How do you encapsulate them, right? I mean, just from the get-go, like how, if I said, I want you to send the bat signal to your community, is it just on YouTube or do you host other things that let them connect with each other?
I love that. Yeah, it's YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Those are like the main 3. I post a lot on all 3 of them. I kind of use them all as like different. YouTube is like, I love YouTube. It's my favorite platform. And that's where like most of the audience is. Twitter is great for meeting people. Like I've met some of my best friends on Twitter, and I've also met a lot of like the people that I've interviewed or worked with. My amazing thumbnail designer, a lot of like people on the team, like just tons of people on Twitter. I think it's a great platform. I think tech YouTube on Twitter is particularly very wholesome. I know a lot of people like don't like Twitter anymore. I've not had that experience because like tech YouTube is just so pure. So on Twitter, I'll post like behind the scenes of the videos, different like tech analysis, kind of similar stuff that I do to YouTube, but maybe a little bit more personal. Like I may post if I'm going to the gym at like 5 a.m., like that will go in there. Or like if I've just seen a really good movie that I like, I may be like, have you guys seen this? And then Instagram is also very similar where it's behind the scenes, but also there's like a huge New York City tech community. And I go to a lot of the events. One of my best friends is a guy named Andrew, and he hosts like tech parties here. And he's like a phenomenal person. So he just has like a ton of stuff, like a tech gala, Junto Club, which is like 100 people. He modeled it after I think Benjamin Franklin, who used to like pick different people from every vertical and put them all in one room. And that's what he's doing in New York. So my Instagram will have like a lot of content around like different events that I'm going to or experiences.
Amazing. I know of the New York tech scene. I've been lucky enough to be on the fringes of it a couple of times. I did not know that there were so many different folks who were really proactively encouraging that community and really ensuring that there's in-person opportunities for collaboration.
He's the guy,
cool
honestly.
Yeah.
Because he moved here, I think, right in the midst of COVID and didn't know anyone. And he'd worked at Meta like you, and then he worked at Google as well. And he didn't know anyone when he came here. He initially grew up in China and then Canada. And then he hosted like a dinner party here, and just like maybe like 6 or 8 people, everyone that worked in tech, went really well. And now in the span of like 3 years, I think he's hosted over 100 events with 30,000 people. He's like one of the most exceptional people I know. And so I think, yeah, the tech community may have been like super fragmented before, but now everyone is kind of in one place. There's also a lot of creators here, like David Kogan is here, who I know you know. And then Born at Work, Kevin Nether comes in a lot. It's good.
Yeah. Plus, you got
in LA.
Here in LA. I mean, the challenge of LA is that LA is such a disconnected city. I always joke that, unlike New York, which is so centered around, even if you're in a different borough, right? Everybody comes to Manhattan. Manhattan is kind of where a lot of things are really sort of concentrated. LA, it's not Hollywood. It's kind of all over. LA is a confederation of neighborhoods rather than a single unified city.
I didn't know that. Like, how far are the different things from each other?
In recent years, there's been a better development in infrastructure regarding trains and buses. They have improved that quite a bit. But broadly speaking, you're stuck driving. You're stuck driving for at least 45 minutes each time. And it's really difficult to time that in such a way that you're not hitting traffic, because traffic is almost 24/7. So don't come to LA expecting that you're going to be able to go to one place and everybody's going to show up. Does not happen here nearly as much.
So interesting. Yeah, because also I feel like there's a lot of creators in LA, but you don't really see as much online like events. I feel like you see certain people all hang out, but not necessarily like a huge event.
Well, the other thing too is that when you talk about LA versus New York, if I say that I'm in New York, the expectation is that I'm really in the city. When you talk about LA, I mean, like, our friend Austin Evans and his team, they're 45 minutes an hour outside of the city, right? So you have to drive a ways to get to their studio, versus, other creators I know we were talking before, Justine and Jenna Azaric, they're in my neighborhood, right? But because we're all working in studios, we've all got these enclosed spaces. Unless somebody has a specific event that they're inviting everybody to, the way that you have in New York, we don't really get that experience. Plus,
someone's got to do it.
I agree. But the problem is I'm not really a tech influencer. I'm not influencing anybody, but I'm not really a tech creator either. So I can't always, I don't know that I should be that person. I don't know. Whatever.
I feel like that's not true, because I feel like you've been in the space in like so many different important ways for like 10 years.
Important. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I am writing this down. That's very generous of you.
Wait, tell me, I want to hear about Meta, because I feel like most people don't really know what you did there, but I feel like it was super important.
Well, that's very kind. This is usually about you, but I'm okay. My time at Meta, I spent working on mostly what's called the new product experiments team. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore, but it was Meta's internal startup incubator and accelerator. Maybe the easiest way to describe it is it was the moonshot factory trying to make the next Instagram, right? Something big, something that was, sort of globally changing things. Unfortunately, for better or for worse, we weren't able to produce that. We produced a lot of really interesting products that really served niche audiences well.
Like, what was your favorite one?
My favorite one was the one I worked on, obviously. It was called Super. It was not dissimilar from Riverside, the platform we're recording on this, where influencers could jump on and talk to their fans. And there were these monetization options that were very customizable. So you never had to offer, you didn't have to force, pay me to access me kind of stuff the way that some platforms do. Everybody had the flexibility to do it however they wanted. And I got to interview some great folks there. In fact, the folks at VidCon were very generous and asked me to host during the pandemic their weekly conversations with some major influencers. Yeah, I had a good time with that. Yeah.
That's so fun. Yeah. Were they on the platform?
They were. So a few episodes ago, this is another shameless plug for another episode. Jim Louderback, who was the CEO at VidCon, he and I had known each other a little bit at my time at Hulu. And when they were looking for a video delivery service to solve some of the challenges they were experiencing during the pandemic, they came to us. We had this thing that we were building. We agreed to a partnership. And so I worked with their team to start hosting conversations every week. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I think there's like a huge, around the time you were doing it too, there was like a huge uptick in creator conversations. Like Cullen and Samir really hit like product market fit. Yeah, it's so fascinating. I definitely feel like this last like 3 or 4 years has been like the moment for the creator economy. And I think it's only going to keep getting bigger and bigger.
I agree. You used to have a podcast. We really haven't chatted about it. You ran it for, I want to say 2.5 years, and then it sounds like it's maybe paused production. What's going on there?
Yeah, so I started the podcast like I think 2.5 years ago with Darsh Kathani, who's like one of my best friends and also tech YouTuber. The first YouTuber I ever met, actually. I was like 13, I think he was like 14. And yeah, we were like babies. And I met him in person for the first time when I was like 15. And then we didn't see each other for years, but we stayed in touch. And then we just met each other again in real life this year. It was like, I guess 7 years had gone by, but we had talked like every week a lot of the time throughout that period. He's great. And so, yeah, we did a podcast called The Digital Dive. It was like a conversation about tech every single week. But I think I'm kind of a big believer that you can only be like truly, truly excellent at like I think you can be excellent at almost anything, but you can't be excellent at everything, or at least you can't be excellent at everything at the same time. And so,
I think you're not taking enough cold showers, but anyway.
Yeah, gotta get back in there.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think you can be like excellent at everything, like in terms of like everything that matters to you, and like that's the goal, right? To strive for it. But basically, I feel like there's so much that I have to learn on YouTube, and we've accomplished like 1% of what I want to do on YouTube, and so Dar similarly has like a lot of other goals with like his career and the podcast. I just didn't think that either of us could. We both like didn't think that either of us could give it enough time to like really grow it the way we wanted to. And then I was also starting to travel so much for work this year that we ended up like pausing it and actually like fully ending it. But he's great, and we're still obviously really, really close friends, and I'm sure that we'll work on something together in the future. But I just want to give NBT like everything I have right now and like fully just try to make the best videos possible.
I appreciate that. I think it's important to know when you should move away from a project that isn't fulfilling you and is taking more work away from the things that will give you more of that happiness, that achievement, that growth.
It's tough when it is fulfilling you, but you also think that it's not the right move. Because like I loved it, dude. Like it was like one of the highlights of the week, but it was also a 6 or 7 hour a week project that neither of us like really could do. And I think also like I want to always make stuff that like if someone watches it or listens to it, they feel like they got more than they feel like they got more value than they gave away by doing it. And I think to do that, you have to put just so much time in. And I just didn't think, I thought the podcast was probably not the best ROI for us. And I also feel like, I don't know if you think about this too, but Michelle Khare talks about a lot that your YouTube channel is like your resume, but you never know which video is going to be the thing that they see first. So every video has to be great because like if they watch one video that sucks, now that's like your resume in their head. And I think same thing like with a podcast or any project you work on, like it has to be amazing because if that's someone's first touch point with you, then you want them to like know like, oh, I associate Jason with like excellent quality.
You're giving me compliments left and right here, but no, I get what you're getting at. I hear you. I think that's I appreciate that you want to put 120% effort into each one of those videos. Who knows how people are going to experience them? You want to get the best chance out of the gate. I respect that. In the 2+ years you were doing the podcast, I'd love any thoughts or feedback that you have for me about things you learned that I can improve on, right? Because I did a few test episodes last year. I'm taking this more seriously this year. Perhaps there's somebody who's listening who's also thinking about podcasting. What advice would you have for me that I can use to improve what I'm doing?
Yeah, Liron Segev, who's a really close friend of mine and also like a YouTube consultant, and I guess podcast consultant too, gave Darsh and I advice really early on that was very helpful of like, and it sounds obvious, but neither of us were thinking about it at the time, and it was pick a niche, because we would, at the time would be like, one episode would be new Pixel lineup coming out, and the next episode would be a new productivity hack that we tried, and the next episode would be a new AI tool, and it was like, what the hell? Like, what audience are you hitting right now? Like, no, there's no bingeability to this, because if they watch one episode or listen to one episode, there's no like similar value prop to listen to the second. And I think as a creative, it feels limiting to be like, oh, like niche down. But I think there's actually a lot of freedom in that because there are so many topics that you can do within a niche. Like you pick like, let's say the monetization models of being a creator, that seems like a very narrow topic, but in reality, like you can talk to like hundreds of people and it's such a big niche. So that would be like number one. Like I feel like you want to be able to summarize it in one sentence and have someone know exactly what they're getting, and then they could just like stumble upon the podcast or the channel and be like, this, it feels like every episode is made for me. And then I think the other thing is podcasting is like inherently a lot harder to grow than YouTube because like there's no algorithm. But if you like use YouTube to fuel it, I think the podcast that I would probably study would be like Diary of a CEO. I think that they're doing a really good job of getting the show is huge on both YouTube and Spotify. And their intros, like their first 30 seconds, are so well edited that the videos are like grossing millions of views, even though they're like an hour and a half.
Interesting. I appreciate that. My Achilles heel right now is when I do a recording and it's time for me to edit, I love doing the conversation part. And I have a couple of things I want to make sure I throw in the front and back. And then I'm just ready to publish it, take some quick social clips, using my tools, put them on TikTok, put them on Instagram Reels, and then move on. What I'm hearing from you, if I might sort of reflect it back, is niche is important. I think I'm getting there, but I want to keep narrowing in on it. But the other actually is maybe spending some more time in the edit and making the front end of the episode really compelling by finding those sort of juicy bits and putting them up front. When you started doing that, did you find that your watch through rate was significantly higher or your listening rate was higher, or is it just good best practices?
Ooh, that's a good question, because honestly, we never posted full videos on YouTube in that style, so it's hard to say, but I would say on YouTube, the first 30 seconds are disproportionately a lot more important than every other part of the video, because if more people stay in the first 30 seconds, like let's say an extra 10% of people stayed in the first 30, that would carry over to a much higher watch time versus like an extra 10% staying in the last 30. And also I think like the first 30 seconds, you're really like selling people on like, this video is going to be good, I promise, like we're going to deliver on the title and thumbnail. And then as time goes on and people keep watching, like there's more of a trust and like emotional intimacy that you build. So I feel like the first 30 have to be like, every part of the video should be good, but the first 30 has to be like even higher stakes, I feel like. And when I watch a lot of interview shows, and the ones that I love are like Colin Smith, for example, or this creator named John, who does a lot of creator interviews too, or Jay Kloss, and they all like will basically take like the best parts of the interview. Like I've noticed their format is like best parts of the interview and some type of contextualization of the guest. So like on Diary of CEO, he had on Alex Cooper recently, and I think a lot of people know her for her podcast, Call Her Daddy, but like they don't necessarily know her as like, now they do more so, but back when she was on like as like an emotionally vulnerable person. So the intro is like her kind of like crying, and then it cuts, and then it's like, call her daddy, and then like they have all these people kind of like talking about her, which like to the audience is like, if you know Alex, you're like, let's go, like I'm so excited that she's getting her time of day. And then if you don't know her, you're like, oh wow, like I should know this person. Tons of people know her and are talking about her. And that video, I think if you read the comments on that video, everyone's like, wow, I didn't really know this about her, like I feel like I learned a whole new side, like I'm so glad I watched this. And I bet if they didn't do a really compelling intro, there wouldn't have been that comment section.
That's really interesting. I'd love to hear a little bit, since your podcast was primarily audio and you weren't using YouTube as a full delivery of the episode. What did you find of value from an audio only audience? Was there learnings there that I could take home and apply?
Yeah, well, I think like if you think about, let's say you were doing like an hour episode a week, if someone listens to that, you're probably one of the people that they've heard the most in their entire week, because most of us don't have like hour-long conversations with that many people. It's probably like, I don't know, 5 to 7 people every week that we like have like a really like deep hour-long convo with. So I think that's such a privilege. Like if you're one of the people that they listen to, like that creates a really different type of relationship than like watching an 8-minute YouTube video. Both are great, but also like you're in their ears. And I think that's one of the reasons why like we feel so close to musicians. It's like we don't see them, we hear them, and so we could do it when we're doing other activities, but it also just feels like very personal. So I think that the type of relationship is different. So it's like, even if like you're getting less listens, maybe it's a higher value audience than just like a random view. And then I guess the other thing is that because podcasting is normally an activity that people, they listen while they're doing something else, there's maybe a little bit less of an importance in like retention editing. Like I still think every part needs to be interesting, but on YouTube it's like zoom in, text, cut. Like on the podcast, I think it's like you get them interested in the first 30, and then if you just keep opening up curiosity loops, it can be more conversational.
That's fascinating. I just today, as we're recording this, published an episode with our friend Kevin Nether, Kevin the Tech Ninja,
nice.
where we talk about retention editing and his shift away from it. So it's interesting to hear that contrast because he was talking a little bit about how he was really leaning into it and really trying to find his version of that Mr. Beast style of, we're doing the $5 tech, but there's the $5,000 tech coming soon. And he really felt like it took away from his ability to edit a cohesive narrative and feel like he was really being true to his story. And
what did then he shift back to? Did he say?
He talked more about sort of how it's not that he stopped doing those kinds of previews of what's coming in the episode, but he really focused more on focusing on his story of what the tech's value was, not just the specs, but what it really brought in terms of value to his experience, what you might find value in it, why it's different, unique, not interesting, not unique, etc. And so he found that while the retention editing perhaps goosed his numbers a little bit, what he found was that he was losing some of the creative appeal of what he was doing in his edit, in his video. But I want to contrast that with what you're saying in terms of it's not about trying to build a Mr. Beast style retention editing format in the front of the video, but it is really important in the front of the, let's not even say video, in front of the piece of media, whether it's video or audio.
Oh, I like that. That's a good
distinction. Yeah, to capture attention for the first 30 seconds to a minute. And then your audience, if they've stuck around that long, are far more likely to give you some space to tell a longer story from there. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, but also, like, I love Jimmy and Mr. Beast, and I think he's, like, an exceptionally talented creator.
Totally.
And I feel like sometimes, like, the online sentiment of, like, Mr. Beastification of YouTube, like, I feel like people don't understand how brilliant he is. Like, obviously a lot of people do understand that, but, like, he's such a talented creator and, like, understands human psychology in a really fundamental way. And, like, people are watching his videos. So I think that, like, one of the things you have to really be good at, and as, like, I'm thinking about it all the time, like, for myself too, is, like, as a YouTuber or entrepreneur, like, you got to be willing to adapt. And I think it's so much easier to do well if you, like, go with, like, Patty Galloway, who's a YouTube consultant. I just watched an interview of him, and he was talking about that he doesn't think that episodic content does that well on YouTube in general. Obviously, there are exceptions to that rule, but he's like, why would you do something that, like, is not made for the platform? Like, do that on Netflix or something, but, like, on YouTube, like, make the stuff that you know works well. And I'm kind of a big believer in that. I think there is, like, an element of, like, innovating and trying new things because, like, that's what makes it feel fresh. But also, I think Jimmy is really, really smart and has understood a lot of what makes a good video. I think when people have copied him in the past, not Kevin, because I love Kevin's work, but I think other people, when they've copied him in the past, have copied all the wrong things, and then they're like, why isn't this working? And it's like, they maybe are shouting at the camera, but they're not, like, taking the storytelling fundamentals that he has done that makes him so effective.
I hear all of that. I absolutely agree. And I do think when we talk about, I mean, this is such a bland term now, but the Mr. Beastification of YouTube, what you're really seeing is actually a very common thing amongst large groups of people where one person finds success and there's 80,000 copycats who don't understand why they're not doing it as well as the original. What Jimmy does that is so remarkable is that it is focused on the storytelling, and the constant grab for attention really fits his niche, which is, I think he would make content around how to make an omelet in the morning if that's what he thought people wanted to watch,
Totally.
right? His entire focus is not, I want to be a game show host or I want to be an influencer. It's just, I just want your attention, and I'm just going to build the stories and the interesting stuff to get your attention, and then we build from there. So 100%. Yeah, I hear that. I also think too, not every glove fits every hand, right? I don't think that you are wrong in saying, like, there's applications of some of what he does into your world doesn't necessarily mean you want to try to wholesale take what he does and apply it to tech, which I've seen a couple of people do. It doesn't really work.
Yeah, I think like, different audiences want different things. And I also think that the next big thing on YouTube won't be what Jimmy's doing. It will be someone else, because Jimmy's always going to be the best at what he does. And since it's his ideas, he'll be the one that innovates it forward. I think the next person that does really well, it will be their ideas, and they'll learn from the past, but they're going to innovate in a different way. And I think, like, if you're just copying someone, it's really, really hard to, I think, ever get ahead, because you're always going to be, like, looking at what they've done to then do your own thing. Whereas, like, I think Casey Neistat talks a lot about, like, patience and, like, showing up as a daily practice, because I think a lot of people want it to happen overnight, and I think most growth just doesn't happen overnight. It's really gradual. And it happens with, like, every time you learn new things. Like, I don't think that it's, like, the timing that makes it successful. I think it's, like, the acquiring new skills. So we'll see what the next trend is on YouTube. I don't know what it is yet, but I think it's exciting. I think it'll be different than what it is right now.
All that's great. And I really appreciate that when we talk about all of these elements, there's the creative aspect of it. There's the, how am I going to edit? How am I going to position myself in my niche? How am I going to differentiate? That's all great. At the end of the day, you're running a business. I would love to hear more about how you're thinking of your business in its current state and what growth is going to look like in the coming years.
Yeah. So it's an advertising business, which I think for most creators is the business model, where it's like you make media and then you sell on that media. And I think that actually works really, really well, because eventually as a creator, like, you could diversify into other business types. And I think there's a lot of potential in tech to do things, whether it be like a job board and help people, like, work in tech, or do in-person events, or maybe, like, add, like, internal video consulting. I think there's, like, a lot of different ways to do it, but I think probably, like, your number one skill set that you're the best at as a creator is making content. So it's the easiest thing to monetize that. And I think there's so much growth to be had there before I try to do other things. So making media is, like, the business model. And then I work with a company called Smooth Media, which is run by one of my closest friends, this guy named Jacklyn, who he and I have been really close friends for many years. And he's just like one of the smartest people I know. He's just like one of those people that you meet and you're just like, damn, like I just believe in you. Like I just think you're amazing. And so we became really good friends like 3 or 4 years ago. And he at the time was working at Morning Brew, which I'm a huge fan of that company.
Yeah,
And he
they're
was like,
great.
kind of
I
like,
love what they're doing there.
they're so good. He was employee number 4, so he's really
Oh,
early
cool.
and a
He's
huge
done
driver of
okay.
the growth. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Jenny, who's the other co-founder, and Kinsey, the other co-founder, were all very early employees. I love all of them; they're all great. Just like really good people too, fun to work with. Anyway, so I met him. He was at Morning Brew. We were just like we're both like obsessed, I think, with like media and the creator economy and videos and entrepreneurship. So we were meeting all the time and just like talking about things. And I just felt like he got it, and I think like he felt the same way, where we were both just like, wow, like we see the same vision of what we want to do. And so we just stayed in touch, and just as friends. And then this year was a year that we were like, all right, let's go, like let's commit and actually work together. And it's been amazing. I love them. We've had like our best quarter that we've had so far, which is super exciting. And we're taking on like we've said no to a lot of partnerships, and we're also taking on a lot of partnerships that are great. Because I think as a creator, like the number one asset you have is trust. So like every creator probably says no to like hundreds of thousands of dollars of deals. And then they say yes to the ones that actually make sense, which is like a crazy thing if you think about it. But also, if you said yes to even one of those and it ruined your trust, like you'd be done. It'd be over for you. So I think it's really important to say no to the ones that don't make sense because people are trusting you.
What kind of a sponsorship would ruin trust? Is it something more like they want you to frame it in a way that's unfair, or do they just want to pay you to say the words that they want you to say? Like what breaks that trust in that space?
That's a good question. Yeah, I would never work with a brand that I'm reviewing. Like I would never do a paid review. And I think there's a lot of opportunities where it's like a phone company reaches out, they're like, hey, would you do like a paid review of this? And it's like an instant no, because like the credibility, like people are coming to you for your opinion and a review sense. So like the best partnerships are ones where it's like I wouldn't review the product or the thing, but I think it's amazing and I use it. So now it's an easy thing to talk about. Versus like, oh, I reviewed this last week and now today I'm going to do it again, but this video is sponsored by X. Like it would just I think not be great. Or something I don't believe in would be an obvious one. Recently, a company reached out, wanting to do like a sponsored interview. We also said no to that because like that feels like an ethical gray area. Where it's like even if they don't tell me what questions to ask or not ask, it just feels weird if the company is paying me to interview their executive. And I care a lot about interviews. And I'm like that's what I really want to. One of the things I really want to build. So it just wouldn't make sense. So yeah, that and so Smooth's mission, just to quickly say, is basically Josh, Jenny, and Kinsey helped grow Morning Brew. Then they left when it was acquired. And they noticed kind of a gap in the market where there are a lot of like knowledge creators, like creators that teach their audience something that could build like a media company, but weren't. So they started working with Colin and Samir. That was their first client. And they built the Published Press. And now their whole thing is like building the next generation of creator-led media companies in specific niches. And they don't work with that many people. Like they're kind of become like a full service like COO role and strategist role. So it's been great. I love them, and that's definitely like, going forward. Like we just want to build like a career-led media company in tech. So like everything we're doing now, but bigger.
Okay, I'm getting their numbers from you before the end of the call.
Yeah, you guys should definitely have them on.
Well, as you're working with them, the one thing that is a constant thread of conversation for folks I talk to is that rather than looking for outside knowledge and individuals coming in to support a team, a lot of folks are turning to AI. I know this is a conversation you've had with your team a bunch. I've talked to a ton of creators across the spectrum about their use of AI. Do you employ tools that are AI centric, and what's your philosophy around that, generally speaking?
Yeah, AI for sure. I think is just going to be integrated in every part of our creative process eventually. Recently, I actually had the opportunity to go to Congress with YouTube and like speak at the White House about AI. It's pretty cool. We were talking about like how AI is going to be integrated on like the YouTube side of things because they're it's not out yet, but they're creating something where they'll be able to like AI dub your lips and your voice to be in a different language, which I think will make content really accessible. Because right now, let's say like the best math teacher is like an English speaking YouTuber, but everyone else in the world that doesn't speak English gets like the second tier knowledge. We could live in a world where it will just be transcribed or dubbed into every language, and that to me is so exciting. I think there are things to consider. Like people should probably have to opt into that, and how do we make sure that like it's actually dubbing it correctly? There's a lot to consider there, but I think that's really exciting. I was added to a beta program for them of like AI music, where they are working with certain musicians like Charlie Puth to type in lyrics and then, or to basically they train a model on his lyrics and his music, and then you could be like, write me a song about cold brew coffee, and then it'll be like in Charlie Puth style. So that's early in beta. It's actually not out to like anyone anymore, but actually maybe out, but it's like very, very limited. That you can't just do it because there's a lot of downsides or things to consider with it. Right now, in this current moment, how we use AI, I would say we use it sometimes for thumbnails to like conceptualize, like, ooh, what would this look like? We use it sometimes for like title generation. If like we're like make this shorter and clickier, it's not always great, but like it's a good starting point. And then I use it to learn things because like going back to I learn best by asking questions. AI is kind of the perfect tool for that because I could be like, teach me about aerospace engineering, and then I can ask like hyper specific questions that like in a YouTube video, if I was like, oh wait, that doesn't make sense to me. There's like no, I can leave a comment, and then it's up to the creator. Versus like AI is great because education is so personalized. Like I can be like, how do I actually use the Pythagorean theorem, and like whatever it may be, and then it can answer specific questions.
I don't remember, I remember Pythagorean theorem.
Yeah,
but yes,
I didn't. I forgot about that until like last week, and then I was mind blown that it was such a vital part of my life in high school, and now it's just over.
I grew up with a math teacher in the house. I knew what Pythagorean theorem was well before anybody else did. Oh yeah. You want to get nerdy? When we were
kind
kids,
of unfair advantage.
To an extent. I mean, my stepfather, who is a math teacher outside of Washington D.C., teaches everything from pre-algebra all the way up through AP Calc and now multivariable calculus.
Wow.
And he used to encourage when we'd have long car rides, my brothers and I would play what we called the prime number game, where I would start with the 2, and then my brother would say 3, my other brother would say 5, and then I'd say 7, and the next one would say 11. And the idea was you go in order, and you can't skip a prime number, and you can't say a number that's not prime. And the idea behind his encouragement of it was, think critically. Is this number prime? What are the checks you need to make sure it's prime or not, et cetera? What it really devolved into was my brothers and I screaming numbers at each other in this like hyper competitive, ridiculous state. Instead of making a 3-hour car ride go faster, I think it actually might have made it slower. So
okay, you're the best because I love like most people's like games would be like, I don't know, Monopoly or something and like no value, but you're like actually learning math.
First of all, Monopoly, the whole point of Monopoly originally was to teach how capitalism is terrible. I don't need to go on an anti-capitalist rant. The original purpose of Monopoly was to teach you that no matter how well you do in Monopoly, the bank always wins. That was the original intent.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The Parker brothers, who then licensed the game, turned it into, look, you can be a landlord and look how great it is to own property. And they completely subverted the original message.
Wow, I did not realize that.
There's your history lesson for today. See, you learned about Pythagorean theorem and anti-capitalist messages in board games. Yes, exactly.
And I didn't even need AI for the second one.
See? Who needs AI when you have JI? Nope, that's not a thing. Anyway, no, I appreciate that. I think, the thread I'm hearing for a lot of people is, of course, AI is going to be integrated into everything, and I want it to check my work, and I want it to offer suggestions, but I want to stay the owner of the final decisions, and I want to stay the owner of the creative direction. Do you see tools going that way? Because I feel like I see some stuff that people are, they're trying to like, let me do the edit for you with AI, and let me do even when you were describing before the concept around lip syncing and all of that, that leads to deep faking. And do we give AI the ability to deep fake us and all of that? Do you worry about those lines?
Yeah, that turn is off the tracks. That's going to happen. Like, I think we're into deep with deep fakes at this point. I think hopefully I'm an optimist at heart. So hopefully the AI will get really good at detecting deep fakes, and we can have the AIs kind of battle it out. And hopefully the detection AI is better. That would be a win. I think we're of course going to have to figure out a way, like AI is changing so rapidly that it's really hard to say. Like, I think it's going to change the job market. I think I'm an optimist again. So if we're being really optimistic about it, I don't think it will make people not have jobs. I think the jobs will just maybe change. I think adaptability. I think the number one skill that we can probably all teach or get better at is like the ability to learn new things, because I feel like AI is going to constantly change the playing field. And so if you have the skill to rely on of like being a quick learner, which I think anyone can be, we'll be in a better spot. In terms of like how it's going to affect creativity, I watched a Casey interview of this that I thought was really comforting, where he was like, at the end of the day, like it's just a tool, and humanity, like the ability to make someone happy or cry or feel something when they're watching a video, AI will assist in that, but it's not like AI is going to replace that tomorrow. Maybe one day it will, who knows? But I think it's not really helpful to, I guess, like hyper-focus on that from now and then not make great work, because we don't know when that's going to happen. So I think it's probably the best move is to just like make great work right now and then deal with it when that happens.
Love that. I love that approach. Well, my friend, we've come to the end of our time. I really appreciate it. Before you go, there is one question I like to ask all of my guests, and I love to reference the brilliant brothers, Hank and John Green of Vlog Brothers for this one, because this was
Oh my God, I
from
love
their
them.
concept.
Crash course.
Oh, yes. So, Hank Green talked recently about whether he likes it or not, for better or for worse, the conversation that he is engaging with online on YouTube, via Crash Course and Vlog Brothers and all of that. It has to end eventually, right? Whether we want it to or not, we cannot make content forever. At some point, the conversation ends. And when we do that, our body of work is then available to other people to enjoy. When somebody looks at the totality of your work and they think about what you've created, what do you want your creative legacy to be in that space? What do you want them, your family, your friends to take away from all of that you've been building for so long?
Yeah, well, hopefully there's still a very long way to go. I feel like we're just getting started.
We're talking about like 80 years from now, 90 years
Okay.
from now at least. Because you're that math. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, 80 years from now, I'll be like 102. Maybe like the cold plunges
Perfect.
will help me get there.
You know what? If the cold plunges get you there, more power to you.
Yeah. Ooh, that's such a good question. There's a Taylor Swift quote that I like, which is working hard and being kind is a great legacy to leave behind. And I think I love that. So hopefully it will be like always showing up and trying to be a really good person and making people feel better, like at the end of the interaction than they felt at the beginning. It would be really cool to make people feel excited and optimistic about technology. I think there are so many people that love it and grew up with no one in their life that also loved it. I definitely had that experience where I was the techiest person in my life, and I didn't really feel like I had friends that loved tech until I started YouTube. So hopefully the videos can provide comfort in that way of finally connecting with someone that also loves tech. And I think technology has the ability to change your life. So hopefully the conversations that we have in the interviews inspire people to take action and make their lives 1% better. And I think that last part of it is that I'm so privileged to work with so many amazing people on the videos, and I hope that they feel really proud of the work too. If at the end of the day we all feel like we've created great things for tech enthusiasts, then it will be a win.
Love it. Jacklyn, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Before we go,
can I ask you? I want to know what legacy would you want this podcast to leave behind?
When I ran for class president my junior year of high school, my campaign slogan was Jason Nellis, honesty, integrity, comedy. And I think that kind of sums up how I did not win that election. I lost it by 9 votes, and I'm still sour about it.
Yeah,
but
who are the 9 people?
I don't know, but I'm still pissed.
Yeah.
Whatever. I was on homecoming court. I lost that too, actually. Never mind. High school was terrible. To answer your question honestly, and thank you for the question. When I think about what my legacy is, right, I think of it very specifically in the context of my son. And I want him to, have led a life and watched me lead my own life in the same context. I think, thinking about creativity in the kind of context that you and I are discussing it, right? What's the practical application, right? It's one thing to think about creativity in these giant heady spaces of we could do this and we could do that, but actually doing the work, committing to the process, learning and struggling and building as you go is really important to me. To be honest with each other and to be honest with the people in our lives we love. That doesn't mean radical candor, does not mean unnecessarily mean, but it is forthright and honest and empathic about all of that as you can be. Empathetic, sorry. But in comedy too, I think life has enough tragedy, right? We already have enough suffering. Why can we add some laughter to it? So that's my thinking. I want those 3 things to be, I want those 3 things to be my legacy, but ask me again in a year, who knows? Yeah, no, that's awesome. I feel like so far your track record is pretty strong on bringing all those. So that's awesome. I don't know about the comedy, but I appreciate the other 2. Thank you. I'm still struggling on that 3rd one. Well, Jacklyn, thank you again. And you cut me off before, but I'll throw it out again. Is there anything you've got coming up that you want to alert folks to before we say goodbye? Yeah. If you want to check out the Humane AI PIN CEO interview, that will be live on YouTube. Super excited about it. And the next video is going to be testing out every smartwatch. I went to bed with 4 of them for sleep tracking. It was fun. So if you want to see which one's the most accurate sleep tracking, I don't need 4 watches to tell me I have a terrible night's sleep, but I appreciate it. Yeah. It was bad. Yeah, it actually made my night's sleep worse. It was they were so uncomfortable the entire night. Right. You're wearing 4 watches. I mean, you move your arms and suddenly it's like anytime you move, you're slammed and it's bright. But it was fun. All right. Good. Well, thanks again. Have a great day. Yeah. Thanks.